Hi, Mark. Great to see you again.
Yeah, nice to be here. And it's an interesting topic we've got today, and not an easy one, actually. And it's something that, of course, we've been writing about on the Neo Academy blog. The article this week on purpose and finding your purpose in your life through education, through work, and we've also been writing a lot about values. So it's a good time to sort of have a discussion and see how this all comes together. So a question I have for you, because I'm really interested in how you would sort of define it. How do you think somebody finds their purpose? I mean, what has happened with you? You've got a very strong sort of identity around your purpose. We talk about it a lot, but I'm sure you didn't just wake up one morning and say, "Got it."
I
What
wish.
I wish. Yeah, it's always a hard road. I mean, what was it like for you? When did you feel like you'd found it? I mean, what was that process?
Yeah, I think, again, it's a very philosophical question, and there's plenty of research around it. A lot of workshops, coaches trying to help you to find your purpose, the inner you, this or that. Um, I must confess, I tried some of those things. I also tried to do like this kind of exercises where you um, try and find what's the in between from different um, ideals that you have in life, passions, etc. Sort of finding your ikigai, right? But in reality, I don't think that what worked for me was to apply a theory. It was most basically just letting it go and really feeling my inner views that maybe were not even shared out loud with the word nor within my own reflections, let's say. So I think that's something that I can share as part of my story. um it's not like I woke up one day and said, okay, this is my purpose, but I could identify few things during my day that would make me happy, and that would make me feel grateful for. Also things that maybe I was not aware of a level of satisfaction that was related to what I like or not, but I was seeing a satisfaction in people in front of me, whether I'll act in a certain way or another. And I think the combination of those different actions, whether they were internal or generated by my actions but perceived externally, that's what made me craft my sense of purpose as I was going. And I think that's very much what I can share with. It's not a magic potion that you can come up with from one day to the other, but it certainly is a combination of actions, beliefs, and perceptions that you get from your daily routine. And you see, and I think this is something very important, the impact that they are having amongst others. And this is what internally made me realize, okay, my sense of purpose is not only for myself, but it's for the people I'm surrounded with and the ones that I can have a positive or negative impact, because that's also something you need to measure. To which extent my personal purpose is actually going against other people perception or purposes, self purposes. So I think there's a whole reflection here about what's the selfish behavior that I want for me, myself, and I, versus what I want the world to have, and what kind of impact I can have between these two visions, basically. And so that's how I started moving in terms of that quest for purpose. And I think I found it a lot in the process of creating a team. And I think it was very much reflected in my professional self. And that's when the mix between my personal self and my professional self merged into one. And I mean, I think we can talk about it a lot more, but this is one of the reasons actually why I decided to start my own business, to not have to dissociate these two selves, right? My what I want from a personal side and what I want from a professional side, but actually bring them together and use that inner self purpose to actually make it a wider one.
It's really interesting that you say you're talking about what's essentially a kind of funnel process. You know, you're coming like this, and up here, you're bouncing off different things, testing yourselves around different people, different situations, trying to find out, who am I in this situation, in that situation, and refining and refining and refining. And somewhere here, you're finding something to build on, and you start to build Neo and build the team, and then refining and refining that purpose. But what really stands out for me is that you got there a lot earlier than I did. Um, and I'm curious, I'm not jealous, just a little bit, but I'm curious because we both went to similar school systems. I went to a very traditional mainstream school. You went to the Lycée Française. Neither of us were encouraged to find our why. It was more kind of rote learning, box ticking, all the usual stuff. So, what would you say were the influences that might have accelerated that for you? Was it particular people you were around, particular experiences you had? Um, One thing that I might want to ask you about is that you mentioned reflection a lot, and that's something that seems critical to this, that you had this reflective practice
Yeah.
earlier. Where did that come from?
Well, a few years ago, I used to travel a lot, a lot, a lot. And when I say a lot, is um, it was when I was living in Miami, working for a university there, and I was maybe traveling 8 months a year for professional reasons. Okay, so that's really a lot. And in those travels, I could be one day in living from Miami to India, the day after to Russia, then to Costa Rica, and you name it, like literally going around the globe representing a university. And when I reflect back, I think that moment was a bit of reflection time for me, because you spend a lot of hours in planes, you spend a lot of hours in hotels, you spend a lot of hours working, because when you are abroad working, you're catching up with whatever you are supposed to do on site there, but also with your normal job that is still to be done, right? And in those spare moments, I would think about, like, what is it that I'm doing, what kind of quality time I can spend in those little moments that I'm not working or flying or jumping from one airport to the other or one hotel to the other. And it was always thinking about the things I was missing rather than focusing on what I was having. And I think that's certainly not longer the kind of reflection I have nowadays. Nowadays, it's mostly what can I learn from the things I don't like, and how can I make them better. So I think that shift happened uh, when I took a moment to reflect and say, you know what, I don't want to be traveling all my life. I also need to settle a bit and to think, this is what my inner me wants from a personal perspective, and it's not being combined with my professional self, so there's a mismatch in there, right? And I always do the same analogy with the movie La La Land,
Yeah.
where you are basically you have to take path A or path B, and you're able to visualize what your life would have been if you would go to the right or to the left at that specific moment. And I went through that literally. I felt like that was the aha moment for me in my quest of purpose. And it's not like I did it and that's it, we're done forever, not at all. I mean, I think on a daily basis we all reflect on how we can get this better, what are we missing, what are we really wanting to achieve. But in reality, those questions or their inner questions are different as time passes, right? And when I did that inner reflection back in the days, that's when I had the dream job, right? Everyone would say, but you were traveling the world, you were getting paid by doing that. And why would you stop, right? And the reason why I actually quit was because I wanted to find my purpose. And that kind of rhythm was unsustainable for me to find my purpose. So that's when I said, okay, let's stop here for a second. No one will understand this, but I feel like I need it. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't feel right for the rest of the world at that moment, but for you, if you feel like you really need to step aside and think about the process, that's when things should happen, right? And that's how I got away from this crazy working lifestyle, and I switched to a reflection time where I said, I have nothing under control. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to be working at or who I'm going to be working for, but I do know what I don't want back then. I didn't know what I wanted, but I did know what I don't want. And it took me a few months to understand really what I wanted rather than only the what I don't want side, right? And as soon as I identified those pieces, that's when I said, well, you know what? I think I'm ready to create Neo. And this is when I started shaping the idea, which of course changed a lot with time. But back in the days, I already started that quest of purpose related to education in a project that was very much important for me. And it's only few years after where I managed to involve some people in my team to go as well in line with that wider purpose. And then the funny story as well is that when I thought I had found my purpose, which was related to bringing because back in the days when I created Neo, it was more of a giving education digital sense, so we could bring more people in the different courses that we were teaching, and bringing micro capsules to people who wouldn't have access to a degree. So that was my initial quest, sorry, and that's what I wanted. But then I realized that, and I can say this out loud today, my purpose, while I contribute to the education system, my purpose is very much based on the people that I work with on a daily basis. This involves you, Mark. This involves my team, and this is what makes me wake up every day in the morning. And I promise I'm not saying this just because of being in a recording. I truly mean it. This is what makes me happy. This is what makes me wake up every day. This is what makes me work extra hours. I feel like I need to be present for the people who have trusted me, and that I can trust these people who are having that same sense of purpose, integrity, and values that I abide by.
Wow, there's so much in there. There's so much in there that we could take this in a million directions. And just to reflect on a few things you've said. So, I mean, first of all, you can see that when we talk about values connected to your purpose, you mentioned trust and integrity, and connection certainly seems to come through.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you think it's kind of the same as I've experienced, that finding purpose is almost like digging under layers, and we
Hmm.
sometimes think we found something because oh, I'm getting a lot of joy or satisfaction from this, but we don't realize we're actually on the surface of it, and that there's a deeper connection to something underneath, and something underneath that. And I studied languages. I was really into languages, and then it's like, okay, I'll teach them. And then it's like, I love teaching. I love teaching languages, maybe because I really love teaching. Then I realized I really loved communication. And then you get deeper and deeper and deeper until it's about contribution. It's about helping people. It's about inspiring others. It's about being part of change and bringing people along with you. And it took me 20 years to get through those levels, but it sounds like you've certainly found it. You found it in the team you work with. And one thing I'd like to pick up on, I mean, I think it's an important point to highlight from what you said, that finding out what you don't want is the same as
Mm,
finding out what you do want almost. I mean, it's like people see this idea of like, oh, I've gone off track, or I've made a mistake, or I've taken a wrong turn. I mean, there's really no such thing, is there? I mean, to really strongly know that you don't want something. And it's interesting, very interesting, that a lot of people you knew were looking at your apparently fantastic life and saying, why would you give that up?
yeah.
Because they see the Instagram version of it, and they think this is amazing. And it might be okay for them, but it's not okay for you. And it's trying to disconnect ourselves from this idealized view of what other people might see as a purposeful life or a rewarding life, and putting blanking out all that noise and finding it for ourselves.